primaries was especially low, with only 8% of registered voters showing up to the polls.
Turnout is typically around 20% range for primary elections. State Capitol reporter Connor Hendricks looks into why so few Iowans voted.
Turnout in a primary hasn't been this low so far in the 21st century. University of Iowa political science professor Tim Hagel says that may be because in a presidential election year, most issues are looked at through a national lens.
Turnout's going to be somewhat lower, but this time it was, even lower than we would have expected.
Hagel says there's usually a few races on the ballot that drive up turnout.
In a primary, especially if you drill down to the congressional districts, you might have something around the 10%, maybe a shade less than that. But in terms of statewide, there's usually enough competition somewhere, either again statewide or in the congressional districts, that it drives up turnout.
Hagel says unless voters were dissatisfied with their current lawmakers, there might not have been much of a reason to show up.
Unless you had some particular race that was really driving it, that's not totally unexpected that it was so low.
Polk County Auditor Jamie Fitzgerald says the turnout may have been low simply because there weren't many races on the ballot.
The governor's on the ballot. The Secretary of State's on the ballot. So your ballot, the top of your ballot, no matter what county you lived in, was U.S. representative. Very important race, but it doesn't have the panache of the U.S. Senate race or president.
Hagel says despite a poor showing in the primaries, he expects voter turnout in the general election in November to be normal.
It's still going to be something that generates a lot of interest, even if people are kind of like, we don't like the divisiveness or whatever it happens to be. Still, it seems to be that it's important enough that we'll get a fairly good turnout.
While turnout in the primary Tuesday was 8% of registered voters, nearly 10 times the amount showed up to vote in the 2020 general election. At the Iowa Capitol Bureau, I'm Connor Hendricks reporting.